Ladies and gentlemen, independent Americans around the country and around the world, I hope you had a happy Valentine's Day. Welcome to the depths of February, and welcome to another important, inspiring, and iconic American conversation with a man that I am honored to know. I am inspired to be around, and I went to the gym extra just in anticipation of this conversation. The great and powerful Chef Robert Irvine is here on Independent Americans. Finally.
I was going to say, you went to the gym? Really?
I need to, man. I knew I was coming to see you, so I went and did an extra workout, and I wore a tight black blank shirt.
Mine's underneath.
I figured you wouldn't wear a shirt at all. I mean, you're in such good shape, you could do an interview with no shirt on, right?
Yeah, I could actually, but I won't. My wife won't be impressed with that.
Well, I'm so happy. First off, I'm happy to have you here. Welcome. So much I want to get into. I want to talk about the book. I want to talk about your journey. I want to talk about your connection to the military community and the foundation. But it's great to see you. I haven't seen you in person, and we're not in person. We're over Zoom. But I haven't seen you in person in years. And it's just really good to see you and be around your energy, man.
Well, I hope sooner rather than later we get to grab a beer and a tequila and catch up. It's been a whirlwind through COVID and everything else, and I've been keeping tabs on what you've been doing, which is enlightening the world and changing the world, which, I think we share the same passion in informing and taking care of people. And that's why I love you so much, and I do. So it's good to be here.
Well, back at you, my friend. And part of why I reached out is our mutual friend, Mark Roberge from OAR, said, man, you guys got to chop it up. And that prompted me to reach out to you. But he is a big fan of yours. He's been on this show. He's a dear friend of mine. And I assume you guys know each other from the USO. Is that where you hooked up?
So it's so funny. I'm a huge supporter of him. So is Justin, the guy who just left, my COO. And he's done Beats and Eats, our big fundraiser every year in Philly. I've been to his concerts. I just think Mark Roberge walks on water for me. So he does. Everything he does and everything he stands for, he reminds me of us in so many ways. He's so giving. And he does every year. He comes bigger and better. And, we've got some big things working. So it's going to be fun.
He's a tremendous human being. I can't wait to have him back on the show. He's also been a great mentor to me in so many ways, and especially in fatherhood. He's a great dad, and we don't live far apart, so occasionally we run into each other at kid stuff. But he's a legend, and so are you. I want to start with a question, Chef, that I ask of everyone. Where are you, and how are you?
So I'm in New York City today and tomorrow. I'm doing my book media. This morning, CNN, tomorrow, Fox and Friends, and all that kind of stuff. And then Navy Ball on Friday, then Portland on Saturday. My life is on the road 345 days a year, and 150 of those just with the military.
That's incredible. And how have you been lately, man? I mean, COVID, the last couple of years, you continue to inspire others, but how have you been?
It's interesting because when March the 17th happened, COVID started, I was filming a show. I got food poisoning, spent 2 days in hospital. Then I got violently ill and 4th of July weekend with COVID and spent 6 days in hospital with COVID. I came out. I didn't tell anybody except my wife. I didn't tell my kids. And there was no vaccines. There was nothing, right? It was just, hey, suck it up, buttercup kind of thing. Vitamin D and whatever else. And I came out, and I'd had something, I don't know, about 30,000 emails from restaurants and businesses in need. I called the Food Network President Courtney White at that time. I said, we need to be back on the road. This can't stop us. We got to save business. So we did. We got 4 buses, 6 people on each bus, a couple of trucks. And we actually stayed on the road the full time of COVID, 66 episodes of television. We were the only people on the road, and our little group of people, which is kind of weird when I think about it now, right? Because we're going into people that, yes, they were tested, but nobody knew anything about COVID at that point, right? So we did the TV, and we've come out. We've not stopped. Our whole business, our protein bars, our liquor, our clothing, which I'm going to send you some. all just took off during COVID. It was ridiculously crazy because people were staying at home, they were drinking at home. We were doing all that, the Zoom and the Facebook kind of thing. But we came out of it really well, and then have not stopped since.
I might have personally driven that because I think I sent you a note. I ate so many Fit Crunch bars during COVID. It was like I had them in my car, I had them in my jacket. And this was not even because you were my friend. I just at some point picked them up, and as anybody who's an athlete or cares about fitness, you try them all. And at some point I was like, this is just my jam. It's just working for me. It's got the right nutrition, tastes good. And I honestly but ate thousands during COVID.
Well,
My little boys were eating them, and then I had to Google, are they okay for kids? But they, if it was up to my boys, they would eat pretty much muscle milk and Fit Crunch bars and candy.
Well, I'm going to change that because I'm coming out with a ready to drink protein drink soon. So and we'll send you some of the new flavors. We have 11 flavors now. But to go back to your point, yes, great for kids, etc. But the money that you spend buying them goes into our foundation. I will get that later. But you probably bought and I bought for somebody that needed it just on your purchases of that Fit Crunch. So they thank you and I thank you.
So I love getting your perspective on hearing you talk about the business side of things, but you're also a great American success story. I mean, you're a business leader, a philanthropist. You inspire people around the world and give back to the country. But I want to ask you, I mean, this is a complicated time in America. You are an ambassador for America. I think you're a great champion for America, and you're a guy who goes to all different kinds of media and touches on all different kinds of people. Chef, where do you think our country is right now? And how do you feel about the state of affairs in America right now and where we're going?
I think we're in this crossroads right now. Okay, we've come through the COVID piece, the January the 6th piece. Half the country is divided on this, half the country is divided on the other. At some point, and then we have China, Iran, the withdrawal of Iraq and Afghanistan, and all these things that I'm very close to, believe it or not, because I get to cook for the president, Republican and Democrat. I get the seal of the United States. I have a restaurant in the Pentagon. I see the senior leadership. I travel 150 days a year with the military to try and make the food better. I think the country is in this crossroads of who it wants to be, and we need to get back to what is fundamentally correct for all America, right? Not just 50%. And I think we're divided on politics. We're divided on, should we shoot a balloon down? Should we, all these things that you're talking about, and I watch and I listen, that are headline news. And today, another sad day, of course, another mass shooting. That's the 67th mass shooting we've had since the beginning of the year. Something has to change. And I'm not talking about taking amendment rights and things like this away, but something has to give where we can help the mentally infirm. We can help the gun laws in that you can't buy a semi-automatic weapon or something, that more than whatever rounds, right? I'm not a policymaker. I just know that too many people are losing their lives, and people are getting caught in the crossfires. And again today, and it's frustrating because I have a wife and two kids, two girls, 24 and 22. That one lives in Baltimore, one lives in Philadelphia. The homelessness, all these things that are going on right now. There has to be an answer, right? And collectively, and I don't care who you are in power, but collectively we have to reach across and somehow come up with it with something that works for everybody and everything, right? I think that's got to happen sooner rather than later. Look, I don't want to get into politics. I don't care who's what and where and when, but we can't stop change. We can't have somebody, Republican or Democrat, say, or independent for that matter, say, oh, no, we're not going to do that because we're going to wait 2 years till we change the president. No, we've got to change that. We've got to change now. When you join the military, we make a commitment and an oath to a country. I made a commitment to the British Royal Navy and Marines. I also made a commitment when I became a citizen of the United States to uphold and defend the Constitution of the United States and against foreign and domestic terrorists, right? And I live by that and I breathe by that. I pay my taxes, I vote, and I have an opinion. And I use that, my platform, for all the right things. Well, I think that for all the right things. So that's where I think we are right now. I mean, it's a roundabout answer, but I think there's so much going on. You can't pinpoint one thing right now.
But if there's one thing that I do try to pinpoint, at least on this show, is leadership. And it feels like there's a leadership vacuum in this country, and that Americans, especially who are frustrated with politics, feel like they don't have leaders with integrity that they can trust, right? And there's this independent movement. 50% of veterans are independent, especially the younger generation. We see many young people are independent. They look to leaders in many different environments and sectors. Would you ever run? I think your home is New Jersey, but would you ever run or serve in government? You have a lot of connections to the military. Would you ever run yourself? You'd get a lot of support.
I that's a great question. At the moment, no. Have I ever felt about it? No. Would I think about it as I get older? Yes, because I'm now championing the Senate Arms Committee right now with the Combat Cares Act. You know, taking money away from veterans that we said we take care of, and we're not doing it. You know, it frustrates me. You know, Luis Avila, who can't get, and he's one of thousands, by the way, right? That they've taken money away from the VA to help these folks. So that's why charities are doing so much work right now, because the government has fell short on doing what they said they were going to do. And that is a repercussion, and you know this, of where we are now with the recruitment of our military folks. Nobody wants to join the military. Why? Because, hey, we promised other people something and we didn't give it to them. Right. So I don't know. I'm a huge advocate of military and doing the right things. I don't think I would do very well in politics because I've got too much of a big mouth and I don't care what, you know.
That didn't stop the last president from getting elected. I mean, you know, but you know, I think there's a power in so much of what you're saying. Maybe they could enlist you to be a head of recruiting for the military because you've been such a great ambassador. But I want to pull apart a piece of that and ask you. I think you know you have a restaurant in the Pentagon. The Pentagon's a building I used to be in all the time. It has a unique culture. You know, I think people outside the Pentagon who've never been inside don't understand how big it is, right? It's just, I think it's the biggest office building in the world, or at least in America, right?
No, it's in the world, I think it is, yeah.
What is it like to have a restaurant in the Pentagon, and how did that happen, Chef? And I'm going to call you Chef. It's like being an admiral or a general. I feel like you get the title for life, so I'm going to refer to you by your title. How did that all come together, Chef?
It's funny. I've since 1997, when I came to this country, I befriended somebody in the supply corps. His name is Tony Powell. He was actually the Master Chief at the White House Food Service. The submarine service were thinking about doing a cook-chilled facility, which means cooking in the bag and all that kind of stuff. And I said, oh, you can come and look at the facility in Atlantic City, because I worked for Donald Trump for 4 years at Taj Mahal. They came. I said it would never work because you have to stack these somewhere. It would take too much, whatever. Ended up going to the White House the first time. And was going there 2 days a week for forever and ever and ever, and still do. And I met a young man by the name of Rob Bianchi, Admiral Bianchi, who was in charge of the Navy Exchange. And I started traveling, doing some kind of thank you to the staff of Navy Exchanges, right? I went to Gitmo when that waterboarding was going on. And I never forget, I was in the clamshell with him, and Amnesty International said, so what are you doing here? And I said, well, I'm just supporting the mission, right? Made front page news because Amnesty International didn't support the mission, right? Whatever, you know. And from that point on, I traveled the globe with doing these things. An RFP came for the Pentagon. I bid on it. I won it, which was unbelievable. And it took us almost 2.5 years to put the restaurant together. Not because there wasn't a restaurant, because there was. It was there. Everything was there that I needed. But it cost me 5 times as much as what it would have cost me because, tying to this, the buildings over there, whatever. So we started that restaurant. It was an amazing place because, look, you talk about the White House being powerful. Sorry, the Pentagon halls, and you've walked them. 26 to 38,000 people a day from every walk of life and every nationality, admiral, generals, whatever, walk that hall. Secretary of Defense is, every head of state, every president goes there. It's a powerful place. And I wanted a restaurant in there because the initial thing was to change the food in the military. And where do you start? The head of the snake, right?
Yeah.
So I started there, and I've been there ever since. And now I'm helping the military change their feeding with a H2F movement in the Army, specifically right now in the Air Force. How do we make things better? How do we make it more nutritional? All those kind of things that you never had, I never had. But we can buy drones and planes and ships and put man on the moon, but we can't fix chow in the military. Come on.
Yeah.
So I've been doing that for 12, almost 13 years, and finally we're starting to make headway. So that's how I got in the Pentagon, was just trying to make change.
I think it's such a great part of your story that I don't know if most folks know about or have heard you talk about, because anybody who's been in the building, right, knows, basic stuff is difficult. It's not like you can just back up a truck of lettuce and just unload it when you need it inside the Pentagon. Everything logistically, security wise is more complicated, as you have shared, more expensive. But it's also a really special place. The energy is special. People need food. You talk about people working long hours at places like Google. I mean, the Pentagon, they're locked in. So they're there, and food is essential. But it's also, your new book is called Overcoming Impossible. It's a great story to hear you, a guy who was in the British Royal Navy, and now you're serving secretaries of defense of the Pentagon, but also the White House. Can you talk a bit about, I've been to the White House for events. I took my mother there once for the Christmas party, and I remembered, they only have American beer, right? They don't, you can't have, you're not going to see stuff that's not American there. And you realize Yingling is there, right? Which you find out is made in Pennsylvania, all the different beers. But can you talk about what's unique or even challenging? Obviously it's special about cooking in the White House.
Well, I think number one, first of all, I came from the Navy. You said I joined the Navy at 16 years old. My mother marched me down the recruitment office at 15 and a half because I was not a good kid at school. I was a rebel. My mother would go to work. I'd come back and drink my dad's beer. And, I was not a good kid. I only enjoyed sports, history, and doing nothing else. But so when I joined the military, as a cook, I thought, oh, this is going to be my life, and I love it, right? And I really did. It was the best, and it still is the best training in the world, and I will never take that back because it set the platform for me. So I got to be on the Royal Yacht Britannia with Her Majesty the Queen and members of the royal family. When they came to the States in 1997, I was working with Donald Trump. I told you about the submarine kind of thing. But I got invited to go to the White House as a guest chef, and I was the start of the guest chef program in the White House. It was unbelievable that an English guy, and I wasn't a citizen at that point, could walk into this amazing building, the People's Building, and just be at home. It was a kitchen, the same as anything else, but back then it went from electric to gas, from gas to electric. The plates changed. We bought new bowls because, just like planes and flight change, so does food. So we modernized the White House, if you like, for want of a better word, the White House military office. Mike Miller was the admiral in charge, one-star admiral, who then became two-star Ronald Reagan, three-star Naval Academy, but was not afraid of change. And that's something, you've got the Situation Room, you've got the Navy mess, the kitchen, and then a wardroom and all those kind of things that go on where the president and senior staff eat. Not all day or every day, but some of the time. And I got to meet 52 guys that traveled the globe with him, and ahead of him, behind him, with him, making sure that his food is and it's something special. I remember doing many dinners and lunches there, and just saying, well, no, the president wants to eat this, and I would send everything up, right? Just because I wanted him to try everything, because I was a military cook, but I'd been in so many different places. It wasn't, dump and stir. It was fine dining and all that kind of stuff. So for me, from going from the Royal Britannia to the White House in this guest chef program, and spending a couple of days there a week, and being able to teach the military chef, and that was the biggest thing, right? You can have a military chef that's in the field, right? Any branch of service, and they just get food out because it's getting food out. They're soldiers and sailors first and foremost, right? But you get food out no matter what it is. It doesn't matter. Just feed the guys and girls, however it is. And that's a completely different thing. You're prepared for a visiting head of state. You travel with stuff you would never normally use in the field as an army or a marine, or So my job there was basically to help them progress, and I still do that today. So every major event I do, Skyball, where we have 15,000 folks, I have all branches of military chefs assigned to me for a week to do these events, Medal of Honor, all those kind of things, because it's continual training for them. And what I'm fighting for right now is extra training for the culinarians, the 92 Golfs or Golf 92s, whatever you want to call it, instead of 8 weeks to 12 weeks. I feel that our military feeding is going to change dramatically, because it has to, because it's not good. Right? There are good parts of it, and then there are not so good parts of it. But if we don't give them the food and the training, just like we do with everything else, it's never going to work. So for me, going from a warship to the Royal Yard to the White House and cooking for heads of state, I think that my mindset has changed. There's still people, but you have to take into account cultures, food styles, all those things. When you're making a menu for 12 heads of state, it's very different to you or I.
Yeah.
And I love that piece of it, because I get to see, look, Justin gets a call from the First Lady's office. We're going to feed. We have a program called Breaking Bread for Heroes in our foundation. And they said, the president wants to feed 400 Marines in Cherry Point next week. And by the way, how are we going to do it? And I'm like, so we send a team and we do it. And right. And I think that's the coolest thing, because as an English cook, because that's what I am, that came to America and worked hard and really believes in America as a great country. I mean, I even asked, it's just a true story. I asked General Milley when he was the chief of the army, could I sign up? And he said, no, you're too old. And I was, but because I would have signed up again. That's how patriotic I am, right? And so the more we can do with the military, the more I want to do. End of story. But that's how I got to the White House, and and it's still the coolest thing. And Justin, it just left. When we walk into the Pentagon, and he's got a card, an ID card for the Pentagon, and he's like, "This is the coolest," because it's the coolest place.
Yeah,
you can't just walk into the Pentagon.
Well, they might take you back now, given where recruiting is, and you're staying in shape. So be careful what you wish for. You just might get it sooner or later. Let me ask you about. Let me ask you about the new book. It's called, Overcoming Impossible. It drops this week. Folks should get it. You've seen it right there. I haven't read it yet, but I will. What do you want to be the biggest takeaway here? Also, taking into account, it folds into well a theme that we touch on. Look, it's been hard for a lot of folks. I think over the last couple of years, people feel beat up. I think there's still an optimistic feeling in this country, but at the same time, they look to people who've been through hard times. And you talk about going from being an English cook to serving the president at the White House. Tell us what Overcoming Impossible is about, and what you want folks to take away.
I think. Look, first and foremost, and I mean this most sincerely, Paul. I am a cook at heart. My main thing is I cook for a living, right? Yes, I can shoot a rifle and I can blow things up. Yes, of course. But I'm a cook, right? I don't get to shoot anymore, or I do, but not the way I used to, right? So for me, is this journey is transcended from cooking on a warship to working in hotels, to going to Jamaica, to working with Donald Trump in a casino for 4 years, to starting my own company, and now having 5,000 employees, right? 11 companies, 5,000 employees. And this book is literally, it's almost like a memoir, if you like, of all my I can't use the military term, but mess ups, right?
Yeah.
All my mess ups. What did I do wrong? How did I do wrong? How did I lose money? And this is pretty much in 3 categories. And it starts with number 1 is empathetic leadership. And what does that mean? We know what leadership means in the military, right? When I go up that mountain and we're going to take that, whatever machine gun post, I want to look behind me or to the left or right of me and make sure my guys are there, right? Or girls. And there was no girls when I was in, but it's interesting to me that the military has changed dramatically what I see of my base visits and USO tours, in that when I was a young sailor, I couldn't, and I worked with a 2-star admiral, I couldn't look him in the face and talk to him because I'm not worthy, kind of. That's how the English was, right? And now I see, 3-star, 4-star guys that people can actually walk up and have a position and say something, and it's listened to. And I think that's what this book is, empathetic leadership, listening to the people that you work with, taking ideas, because the old military, just like old business, used to be the A's and the B's, and the A's being the boss and the B's being here, and nobody listens to a B, right? I want all A's surrounded by me. I want people that are not afraid to come and tell me, hey, we think you're wrong, or we think it's better done this way, right? Because that's what makes me successful. And it took me 10 years to actually figure that out. And I made many mistakes, thousands of them, and I put them in the book because I want people, the empathetic leadership is about listening to the people you're surrounded by and taking advice when you need it, right? So that's number 1. Then it goes into the biggest thing, which is egos, right? Egos get in the way of everything, losing the ego. And then number 3 is the trust. There's many case studies of what I've done here, and I fixed over 20,000 restaurants and businesses from 50,000 to 53 billion. And the problems are always scalable. You look at a system, you're used to systems, we're used to systems, the military used to systems. And the minute you walk in and you see something's not working, it jumps out like a baseball bat at you, and you say, well, look, why do you do that? Oh, because it's always been done that way. Well, I challenge that. And I upset a lot of people because I challenged the system. But that's what makes success. That's what makes change. And that's what the book is about. It's taking systems, breaking them apart, telling what works, what doesn't, and showing you before you hit the pitfall. It's not a book where you check off things and say, oh yeah, because if I have $1 million for every check that somebody said it was done and it wasn't, me and you would be sitting on an island that I own in the middle of just drinking tequila for the rest of the night, right? But these are people that do it. And I've seen it through COVID. I've seen it in the military. I've seen it in big business. And they just say yes, because we've done it. And they haven't. And this book is about just that. Why do we fail? And why do systems fail? Look, I don't care about whether I learn from the guy on the street. I learn from a bus driver, a cab driver. I listen. And before, I never used to listen. I'd be like, no, it's my company. It's my way. Screw you, it's the way it is. And one day my wife said to me, she wasn't my wife at the time I met her, she's like, you're a real piece of work. And I'm like, what do you mean? hence I married her, and she keeps me in tow now. But
Good.
I think my attitude changed from hiring B's to hiring double A's, because I wanted to be successful in things that I didn't know but thought I knew. And I think that's what the book does. And I think the modern generation, just like the military, by the way, you go to college in the 19 to 24, the military is the same way.
Yep.
We're cherry picking or trying to cherry pick people, yet the industries, whether you're pilots, whatever the industry you're in, they're paying 3 times as much, giving better benefits, giving, so of course, where are we going to go?
Absolutely.
It's not about not believing in the country, because we do, but then make it level playing field, so at least we can pick this benefit, this housing, but what we've got is inadequate housing, inadequate money, food insecurity, all those things. Why would you want to go into a job like that? You wouldn't.
Well, and it's a powerful intersection, because I've long been a proponent of national service, right? I think that I want young people in America. I've said they could serve in our military, they could serve in the Peace Corps, Marine Corps, AmeriCorps. But I also have said you should put working in a restaurant in there, because I grew up working in restaurants and bars, and then I went in the military, I played team sports. And I feel like there's something incredibly formative about working in a restaurant, working on a team, and having that experience, having to serve people, but also the logistics and everything from, safety to sanitation. I mean, you learn everything working in a restaurant. And I hope that my boys, serve in the military if that's their pick, but I would almost insist that they're going to work in a restaurant. At some point,
you miss one thing out there.
What's that, please?
The partying afterwards.
Hey, if you're in a good restaurant, yeah.
Yeah, look, I am the same as you. I grew up in England, where national service, prior to me growing up there, obviously was a big deal. I am a big supporter of 2 years of national service in this country, non-deployable, right? I don't think it should be deployed. They should be stationed at home. And why do I believe in that? Because of all those things you just said about the restaurant business. The restaurant business is parallel in that it's a brigade system, just like the military. You grow up in that system. You get taught per job, per section, and you move up when you're ready. Same with the military. It's the biggest phenomenon, I think, of why restaurants are successful. Certain restaurants are and certain restaurants aren't. And it's interesting because if you look at the parallels, when I came out, my transition from the military was not easy. It was, people standing all over you, like talking garbage about you and trying to get above you. And my company, and because of that experience I had of people trashing you, which you're never used to in the military, because when your time comes up and you do your exams and you get moved up, right?
Yep.
In the civilian world, it's like, nah, screw you, I want that job. I'm gonna do you as much as I can get rid of you. And I have a thing in my companies. The minute you badmouth something, you can ask any of my team. The minute you badmouth somebody and you don't go to that person and talk to them directly and sort it out, if you then go to somebody else and complain about that person, you're gone. I don't care how powerful you think you are in my team, because I won't have people undermining other people. Yeah. And we don't have that in the military. Of course, there's disputes and there's always, people like you, they don't like you. Look, you're always going to have haters. Have haters, it's okay. In fact, that drives me. I talk about that in the book too, having haters, how that's awesome for me, because it drives me to be more successful, to prove them wrong.
That's powerful. And it's all command climate too, right? Like anybody who's worked in a restaurant knows the chef drives the climate, drives the atmosphere, drives the culture, right? Yeah. Similarly in the military, and they can do it for good or they can do it for evil, and they can bind people together or tear them apart. So I think there's a lot of power in that, and understanding leadership and paying your dues, in just dealing with difficult situations, multitasking, stress, all of it, right? Like you can tell someone who's never worked in a restaurant when you sit down with them and they're in a restaurant. You can tell the people who've worked in the business, who've been in the trenches, trenches and who haven't. And I think that's true, broadly in society too. It forms a really important work ethic and connection to working people and to the most basic thing, food, right? So let me ask you this. I hope you'll stick around for a couple of extra Patreon questions. Our Patreon members, which will include the big food question. Our regular members know what it is. You don't know what it is. It's coming. That'll be for our Patreon members only. But let me ask you this. You've cooked for President Trump, and have you cooked for President Biden before?
Yes. Yeah.
So
when he was
what is President,
actually 2 weeks ago.
If President Trump and President Biden said, I want you to cook me one thing, what would each of them ask you to cook them?
Wow. Well, I can tell you, I've been worked for Donald Trump for 4 years in a casino. Yeah. Before he was the president. His steak and ketchup, hands down.
What was it?
Steak and ketchup.
Steak and ketchup,
hands down, and French fries.
Did he have a cut? Did he have a cut of steak? And how did he
normally sirloin? Always well done. Never. So he's easy, right?
Okay.
He was easy.
Did he put the ketchup on the steak?
No, I always put it on the side. He put it on the steak.
All right. I figured there was going to be a very specific request, right?
Yeah, he is very, very particular in who touches food. Really, he's got a very specific. He did when I was with him at Trump.
All right. Sure. And what about Biden? What would Biden want?
Biden, he's really interesting because I remember doing when he was the vice president, and this is kind of a long-standing thing now. When he was vice president with Obama, I was doing a lunch for Obama and him, and we had an apple pie with a feta cheese, right, on the apple pie. It was amazing, but Biden doesn't eat cheese. So he said, can you make me something with chocolate? Well, I made a chocolate mousse in 5 minutes, run up to his office. There was a couple of senators and generals, and I just put it on the secretary's table, and she said, no, he wants to see you. So I took it in there, and literally, I told about Cherry Point earlier. So every dinner I do with military folks for Thanksgiving or Friendsgiving, I make him this mousse to go on the plane. The same. But he's got a good palate of food. He likes food.
What about you? If you had a last meal, it was your last meal on earth, what would you want?
Right, roast chicken and mashed potatoes, dude. I'm a simple eater.
Would it be your roast chicken and mashed potatoes, or is there someone in mind you would have?
There's only one other that can come anywhere close to mine. Yeah. There's a restaurant in Philadelphia. And it does the best. So I believe in riced, creamy mashed potatoes with a pound of butter, white pepper. I mean, look, I can go to the gym all day, but don't mess with my mashed potatoes. Don't mess with my chicken. And the restaurant's name is Park in Philadelphia. They do an apple tartatan, an apple pie, or an apple tart with ice cream. That's my parting. If you're going to take me, I want to eat that before. My girls know it. It's actually in my will.
I love it. I want to thank you for all you do. You are a true inspiration. You're a real patriot, when that word's gotten thrown around a lot in the last couple of years, especially. You continue to give back. You're a great role model. You're a good dude. And I just want to thank you for all you do, not just for the military, but for this country and all you're going to do in the days ahead. I'm really honored to have you as a friend and grateful to have you on your show, and just always rooting for you, man.
When you do me a favor, don't ever give up fighting for what you believe, because I know you won't. You're like me. You're loud. You're aggressive. And I love it. You will win. Always. Always. Don't ever give that up, dude.
It's a great message to end on. I'm going to go eat some Fit Crunch bars and raise a glass of tequila to you next time I'm out. You're going to stick around for our Patreon members, but thank you for all you do. I wish you all the best. Everybody go get Overcoming Impossible and follow everything he does. The great chef, Robert Irvine. Thank you, my friend. Stay vigilant.
Thanks, man.